Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of New York, New York, a unique Yankee and Mets baseball show brought to you by the K&K Sports Network. Happy solar eclipse day to everybody out there on the East Coast and Central. Hopefully, you got to see the solar eclipse. And it's March Madness finals tonight. But we're here to talk baseball tonight. As always, I'm here with my one and only co-host for the K&K New York, New York show. That's Mr. Paul Rosen. How are we doing tonight, Paul?
Good evening, Kenny. Good evening, everybody. Like you just said, happy solar eclipse day. That was an amazing thing to see. We didn't really get it too much here in central Jersey, but just watching some of the areas, the rest of the country was just an amazing sight to see. And I understand why people were just so drawn to seeing that natural type of event. Obviously, it doesn't happen too often. So just an amazing day.
Absolutely. Quick comment and hello from a Graham. Graham out there on
Hey,
YouTube. Thanks,
Graham.
Graham, for hanging out. He wasn't there on his end. He's in Canada, by the way, out
Mm,
there on the West Coast, Western Canadian. He's a Western Canadian, and it wasn't here, but thank goodness for the internet. He got to see it on the internet.
hmm
Yeah, it wasn't much here neither, Graham. I guess you had to be out in like Ohio, Illinois area, but we got, couldn't really tell much of a difference. It was like sundown, like 6 o'clock in the evening time here for those 3 to 5 minutes, and that was about it. It wasn't complete darkness. That would have been pretty cool.
hmm
But all right, why don't we get into the show, Paul? You got something in the intro
Okay.
you want to say about the Mets, about your
Yeah.
team?
So uh, obviously, I've been a Met fan for 60 years, and one of the key players that the Mets had that helped them win the 1969 World Series and the National League pennant in 1973, unfortunately passed away yesterday. Jerry Grody, who was a superb defensive catcher, was with the Mets for 12 years. Just a hard-nosed type of player. He mastered that young Met pitching staff, the Tom Seavers, the Jerry Kuzmins, the Nolan Ryans, the Tug McGraws, uh, guys that just were uh, he was just able to uh, put down fingers to call pitches, and they just allowed him and followed him and never missed a beat. Uh, Johnny Bench tells the story when uh, he knew Jerry Grody was such a good defensive catcher that if they were ever on the same team, he would have to play third base and Jerry Grody would catch. So I just wanted to acknowledge one of the great Mets of the past, um, member of the World Series winner, champion team in 1969 and National League pennant 73, Jerry Grody, who passed away yesterday at 81 years old. Rest in
No,
peace.
absolutely, and that's what our show is. It's about our Mets and Yankees, and rest in peace, like you just said, Paul. Great career with the Mets, and you know he'll be missed for sure. Uh, that being said, Paul, why don't we get right back into your Mets and our agenda part of the show, and it's open agenda as well. So anybody out there that's got any questions, comments, throw them at us. Uh, we're here for you. We'll open agenda, anything you guys want to do. And so I'm going to pass it right off to you, Paul, for our first segment. We call it What's Wrong With, and we do this each one of our shows. And we come up with something different that's wrong with the Mets and what's wrong with the Yankees. So I'm going to give it to what's wrong with your Mets.
All right, thanks, Kenny. Specifically, what's wrong with the Mets? It's not so much the Mets or even the player that you may see, Frankie Lindor. It's the Mets fans, and I'm not talking about every Mets fan, but those specific social media basement idiots. And if we were on a later time, I would be using different words, but it's a family show, and I respect that. Who had the audacity, the nerve, the disrespect to go on social media and not knock Francisco Lindor, but have the audacity to talk about his family, his wife, his kids. I mean, what the hell are these Met fans thinking? Because he gets off to a slow start. And oh, by the way, yesterday he hit a home run and had a double and helped the Mets win 2 out of 3 from the Reds. But are you out of your mind, Mets fans, that here's a guy who's dedicated himself the last 2, 3 years, barely misses a game, is one of the top 3 shortstops in my opinion in the majors, and he gets off to a slow start, and to talk about his wife and kids. I mean, grow up, have some respect. It's unreal to me that you think you can hide behind a social media post and feel you can say and do whatever you want. So I'm talking to those Met fans who, if you were at your job, I'm sure you wouldn't want someone coming in and criticizing you behind your back. And give the guy a break. Steve Cohen actually suggested Met fans, when the Mets come back from their road trip after playing in Atlanta next at the end of this week, that the Mets fans give the Trey Turner uh, uh, treatment and give Lindor a standing ovation. And I think that's a great idea. Just because
Uh,
he's making a lot of money doesn't mean he's got to hit 80 home runs, not make an error the whole year, or drive in 500 runs. Enough already.
no, I get what you're saying, Paul. Uh, there's no room in my opinion for those type of fans. But I will say, as an outsider, I don't think he's produced the way he did with Cleveland since he's been with New York. Now I don't know if that means because he's getting older. I don't know what the reason is, but his numbers are down from when he played with Cleveland. I will say that.
That's
But
fair.
again, not nearly nobody deserves the treatment that you get from some New York fans, media, and it's just it's in every New York team. When the Knicks are bad, the Knicks are getting it. When the Giants are bad, the Giants are getting it. When the Yankees are bad, the Yankees are getting it. And
Right.
and
But it's one thing to criticize a player, but to take it out on their wives and kids,
that's what
no.
I'm saying. No, there's no room for that. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no room for that. And those people should be ashamed of themselves. And you know, again, it's why I truly believe we let the media get the way it is here in New York, and that's why you got the fans acting like that. 20 years ago, when there wasn't much internet and all that stuff for people to read on the computer and do everything on the computer, they weren't reading the newspaper articles that may have
Hmm.
bashed people in the right way. But now you got all these internet people, and that's all they do is sit behind a computer for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't get up off their sphincter, and that's what they do. This is what they do, and they get recognized for it and publicity for it. And that's where I'm going to go with my Yankees. It's very similar. I'm going with fans as well, and I got 2 players: first Nestor Cortez, and then Giancarlo Stanton. Nestor Cortez, he's coming off an season-ending injury last year, missed most of last season. By the way, Clayton, good friend Clayton here on saying, hey, guys, smash that like
Hey,
button
Clayton.
and share. And he's a Denver Bronco fan for life, baby. Thanks, Clayton, for hanging out with us. Uh, I'm going a similar way. And, I'm already hearing media and some fans, oh, Nestor Cortez, he's got a 6 ERA. He's not what he used to be. Well, it's only 2 games. Okay. And coming off an injury that he did, cold weather, wait a month or two. If he's still got a 6 ERA in June, come back and talk to me then. The other guy, and I'll make mine short and sweet so we can move on with the show, is Giancarlo Stanton. Okay, some fans, I think the guy, and I use this word kindly, is a fraud. Okay, fraud meaning minor injuries from day one when we lost that World Series to the Astros. Can't play because he tweaks something. Well, there's something called the designated hitter. Look at Kirk Gibson, what he did in that World Series. But I'm getting to this year. 219, 3 home runs, and 7 RBIs. And fans are getting ecstatic that Giancarlo Stanton hit 2 home runs the other day. Are you going to be ecstatic in 2 weeks when he's hurt? Because that's what it's going to happen. And I will almost guarantee that he's on the DL in less than a month. He's just not, there's a thing called too much muscle. And he's got too much muscle. He's in the gym probably 12 hours a day. And then he strains something, and an injury that should be 10 days, Paul, turns into to 3 months. So that's what's wrong is the fans, both ends rooting and bashing the wrong players. Don't give this guy praise when he hit 2 home runs against. Okay, he hit 2 home runs this weekend. Big deal. Do it consistently for a whole year and get 40, 45 home runs like you used to do with Miami. That's what I want to see from him. But anyway, that's what's wrong with the Yankees. There's our good friend Albert Knoppers. Check out Albert. Check out Albert, Keith Brugman, Trevor Salzman, and Jody on Denver Bronco Roundup Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and also on Friday nights, 9 Eastern, doing Denver Bronco show called Denver Bronco Roundup. Albert, did you get to see the solar eclipse? You're out there in Missouri. Did you get to see the solar eclipse today? While we're waiting for Albert's response, Paul, why don't we move on to our feature segment tonight? Our feature segment, I'll let you take it over. This is about one of your Met players, former Met players.
And Yankee player, but most remembered probably as a New York Met. So this coming Sunday, April 14th, the New York Mets are retiring Dwight Gooden's uniform, probably the highest honor that a organization can do for a player, retiring their number. And in my opinion, it's well deserved. Doc came up in 1984, so it's 40 years, which is crazy to think. And he set the league and Major League Baseball on fire. Mind you, he was a 19-year-old kid coming in, and Major League players had not seen a guy like this at that young of an age, probably in the history of baseball. That first year, he set the record of strikeouts for a rookie, 276 strikeouts. And the Mets, before 1984, they had been in the basement. They had acquired Keith Hernandez the year before. They brought up Darryl Strawberry, but this was the next piece of the puzzle, bringing up this kid. And Davey Johnson, the manager, said, I don't care how young he is, he's going to be my pitcher. And that turned out to be the best move the Mets ever made. So that first season, he became Rookie of the Year. And if that first year was good, the next year was even better. He was 24-4. He had a 1.53 earned run average, 268 strikeouts, sort of won the Triple Crown of pitching, won the Cy Young Award for that season in 1985. And then the following year, of course, the Mets won it all. He had another great season in 1986 as he led the Mets to the World Series, and they became World Series champions, beating the Red Sox in 7 games. Of course, Dwight had a lot of issues, off the field issues I think everybody pretty much knows the history, but on the field, he was phenomenal in terms of being an electric presence. I remember going to games that first year, that second year, and it was like a rock concert. It was an event. It wasn't just a baseball game. People were jamming into Shea Stadium trying to get tickets to watch this guy play. Not just regular Mets fans, but celebrities and stars, people who probably were never interested in baseball would try and get tickets to watch this guy pitch. So it was an event. It was an amazing time when he first came up those first few years. As I said earlier, it's in the show. I've been a Mets fan for 60 years, which is hard to believe, but I've seen all the Met great pitchers, including the franchises, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Tom Seaver, and you know what? As great as Seaver was for many, many years, there were times when Dr. K, as he became known, went to the mound. He was even better than Tom Seaver pitching. So this honor, this acknowledgement by the Mets toward Doc is certainly well received. Certainly, it's an acknowledgement that the Mets care about him and appreciate the time that he spent with the Mets and help make the Mets back then into a winner. So, congratulations, Doc. Uh, well deserved, and we look forward to seeing that number 16 up in the rafters at Citi Field.
Well said, Paul. Well said, Paul.
Thank you.
Eddie Murphy saying you're missing a brown bag.
Oh, I thought I was gonna wait. I thought I was gonna wear that tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow you're going to wear it. Yep, you're right.
Right.
No, but, I remember Doc with the 86 Mets, young. I ended up going to a game. He didn't pitch, but I remember that team very well. My cousin used to work in the World Trade Center, and his company had tickets, and we had press box seats. So we had one of the suites, and we were in one of the right field boxes. But just remember being at Shea Stadium and around that whole team. But I never physically got to see him pitch live. But uh, just that team in general, was phenomenal. But deservingly so for this man right here. I remember him more as a Yankee, and of course the no hitter that he had was inspirational. There's a pretty good movie on Amazon Prime. It's actually called Torre, and it's got Paul Sorvino in it, and it's about Joe Torre when he came up with the Yankees. But Dwight Gooden has a big story in the big part of the story as well that year, and with Doc's no hitters involved in that movie as well. So it was a pretty good movie, an underrated movie that you don't hear about too much. And I enjoyed it as a baseball fan and a Yankee fan, just remembering a lot of the stuff that happened that season. But, hey, great job by the Mets to, induct one of their own into their Hall of Fame and retire his number, so hats off to them. Well-deserved, Doc Gooden. Eddie Murphy saying, okay, fair enough. Oh,
well. I'm glad it meets with his high standards.
Do you want to add anything else, Paul, before we move on?
The only other thing, of course, at that point, the Mets had not had a no-hitter in their history, and here it is, maybe one of the great Met pitchers of all time. Not only does he throw a no-hitter, but who does he throw a no-hitter with? The New York Yankees, the crosstown rivals. So that was like a stake through the heart when he did pitch that. But congratulations, Doc. All is forgiven.
That's a good point. Yeah, he did it with the Yankees. That was pretty wild, and bragging rights as a Yankee fan for many years until you got your first one with Johan Santana.
Exactly.
All right, Paul, I'm ready to move on to our fun weekly segment that we have each week, and that one is called Mount Rushmore. And this week, Paul, we're doing a Mount Rushmore of starting pitchers. I'll go first with the Yankees on this one. I'll get the Yankees out of the way because, pitching this week is about the Mets, so we'll let you get the final word in with the Mets.
Sounds good.
So I got my Mount Rushmore of starting pitchers, and I actually messed up. I actually had Mariano Rivera. He was a starting pitcher, but not a Mount Rushmore starting
That's
pitcher.
true.
So I got the fourth one on top of my head, but I don't have his numbers, so I'll have to go back and get his numbers. But Whitey Ford tops the list. Played 1950 to 1967. He had 236 wins, 2.75 ERA. Of course, I never seen him play live, but he was the chairman of the board was his nickname. And all the old timer days, you would see Old Timers Day at the Yankee Stadium, you would see him. And heard many stories about how good he was as a pitcher throughout those many great World Series teams where you got Mantle and DiMaggio and all the Yogi Berra. You had Whitey Ford as well, and he gets overlooked because of all the sluggers that we've had. Second on my list is my favorite Yankee pitcher of all time, and that's Andy Pettitte. He had 2 stints with the Yankees. And I was heartbroken in 2003 when that season was over and he goes to the Astros. Before they became somewhat of a rival, he went to the Astros with Roger Clemens and came back in 2007 and talk about a kid in a candy store, how happy I was when he came back. But he had a 256 total wins. Some of those were with the Astros, but a 3.85 ERA. He's on that Mount Rushmore. Put him in the Thomas Jefferson spot. My Franklin Roosevelt spot's going to be Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry. He played from 75 to 88. So obviously I was born in 75. Didn't see his early years, but I remember him with the Don Mattingly years where we had bad teams. And Ron Guidry was one of the lone bright spots on the pitching staff. All those horrible pitching staffs. I could just name some people right now: Ed Whitson, Andy Hawkins.
I remember those.
Oh, just to name 2. I get sick naming more. Tim. I don't even know. I'm not even naming anymore. Forget it. But he had 170 wins with the Yankees and 3.29 ERA. Fourth one I'll throw on that list will be CC Sabathia. Came over from the Indians, and he won a couple World Series with us. And CC became a long-time Yankee until he retired a couple of years ago. Don't have his numbers in front of me, but I'll throw CC in there as the fourth.
Very nice. Very, very good list. I think that Yankee Mount Rushmore of starting pitchers is excellent. Really, really good. Excellent.
How about your Mets?
Yeah. It's interesting. The Mets have had, over the years, surprisingly amazing starting pitching, as crazy as that sounds, with so many years losing. But they've, for some reason, have been able to either bring up or acquire very, very good pitchers. So I'm going to start with 4 and work my way up to number 1. So my 4th on the list is Jacob deGrom. And when they brought him up in 2014, they had Matt Harvey and Noah Syndergaard and Zach Wheeler, and deGrom was considered the 4th or 5th starter on that staff. Well, he came up and started dominating National League hitters, and I think it was a shock to everybody. And he went on to win 2 Cy Young Awards. And we got into, at that point, I think the sort of the analytics of wins were less important and other aspects of pitching became more important. But deGrom, on days where he was dominant, again, which was probably as good as Tom Seaver and Dwight Gooden. That's how dominant he was at points. My third Mount Rushmore is Jerry Koosman. Jerry was the Robin to Tom Seaver's Batman, but Jerry Koosman was a tough and savvy and take no prisoner type of pitcher mentality as the Mets have ever had. He won 2 games for the Mets in the '69 World Series, including the winner to beat the Orioles in '69. Was on the '73 pitching squad that went to 7 games with the Oakland A's. And Jerry had a tremendous, tremendous career with the Mets. I remember one game when the Mets in '69 were playing the Cubs, and the Mets leadoff hitter Tommy Agee on the first pitch was knocked down. The pitch was almost at his head. Well, one of the Cub players came up in the next inning, Ron Santo, and he drilled Santo in the wrist and broke his wrist. And his attitude was, you do that to my team, I'm going to do that to you. And that's what kind of competitor Jerry Koosman was. Second on the list, of course, we just spoke about him, Doc Gooden, who, in my opinion, was the second greatest Met pitcher of all time. And of course, number one, the franchise, Tom Seaver, who still holds many, many, many Met pitching records over the course of the Mets history. So those are my 4 Mount Rushmore pitchers for the New York Mets.
Well done, Paul. It got a honorable mention, maybe. I don't think he's on the Mount Rushmore, but if they had like a baby Mount Rushmore, or the president's kids as Mount Rushmore, I put Johan Santana on there because he was the one and only Met to get a no-hitter in your long history of Mets pitchers. I think everybody else I think is accurate and well done, well placed in the in your Mount Rushmore for sure. I think that we nailed it on our Mount Rushmores.
I agree.
You want to move on to we got March Madness tonight, so we may end the show a few minutes early tonight. But
okay,
but we can move on to who's on first if you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another one of our weekly segments. We all know Abbott and Costello, famous comedian duo there, and their famous bit was "Who's on first?" This is our take on who's on first. Randomized questions, fun questions for everybody, and everybody to answer. And we got some fun ones this week for you all as well. I'll start first, Paul. My first "Who's on first?" question for you is going to be called "Bring It Back or Put It in the Shack." And that's things in Major League Baseball that aren't with us at the current time. If you want to be back in baseball, you're going to just clearly say, we're going to bring it back, and this is why you want to bring it back. If you don't want it to come back, you could do without it. Just say, keep it in the shack. And, if there's a reason why you want to keep it in the shack, you put it there. So start with an easy one for you. The Montreal Expos. Should Major League Baseball bring them back, or should you just keep it in the shack? Baseball doesn't, belong up there in Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that the Expos had many, many good players come out of their system and play for them, I would keep it in the shack. No baseball in Montreal.
I would bring back the team name. The team name is a fun one. But maybe like a place, like if baseball was to expand, like Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't have a team, or the Carolinas,
right?
But I would keep the Expo name. Hey, you could keep the team name. I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah.
But I like the Expo name. Yeah, that was a unique name out there in Montreal.
Well, Kenny, when the Lakers were originally in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and of course, I think the
Oh, the Dodgers, Dodgers, Brooklyn Dodgers, LA
Right,
Dodgers. So you can keep
right.
the team name, yeah.
Yeah. But the Lakers, there's no lakes in Los Angeles, or I mean, not 10,000 lakes or whatever, and that's what they would call the Lakers, but they've never changed the name. So yeah, keep the Expos, keep the name.
Okay, so we're gonna keep we're gonna keep the Expo, but we're not gonna keep the Montreal. So half goes in the shack and half comes back. Our next one,
Like it.
the old stirrups. You know, you used to put them on the sock, and there it is, right there, and underneath your heel of your foot. You
Hmm.
know, halfway through the game, it would come out mostly. You know, a lot of times if you slid into second base or slid somewhere during the game, you'd have to take your shoe off and put the stirrup back on correctly. Are you bringing back that old style stirrup, or are you okay with just like the socks that the players wear now these days?
Oh, I love that look. Bring him back. Definitely bring him back. I hate that baggy look. They wear their pants all the way down to the shoes. This is so stylish. I love when Keith Hernandez used to wear those high socks, high stirrups. Definitely bring him back.
I used to like the it's funny, little league. I had those stirrups, and
Hmm.
our little league, I guess, wasn't doing well financially, so we always had the recycled uniforms, and stirrups were part of the recycle. And I
Oh,
probably had
okay.
stirrups like that was stretched out. So like I said, I always like 3 or 4 times I'd have to adjust my stirrups during the game. But I would bring them back. I used to like the old look that Don Mattingly wore his pants down, but he still showed the stirrup part
Hmm.
of the stirrups. So
Hmm.
it wasn't just pants down and not seeing any socks or anything like that. But
Right, right.
I like the stirrup look with the white socks. And what was cool was, remember the Oakland A's? They had the yellow socks with
Yep.
the green stirrup. That was a
Yeah.
cool look.
Yep.
To me, that was a really, really cool look. So
I
I
agree.
think it's unanimous. I think we're going to bring the old stirrups back. Nice. My next one, Paul. National League Baseball rules. I got one rule in particular.
Okay.
Bring back the pitcher hitting, or are we keeping the DH and keeping it one set of rules in Major League Baseball?
I have to be honest. For years, I was jealous that the American League had the DH, and finally, the National League agreed. Let's make it a little more competitive and have the National League also have the DH. So I love the fact that they have the DH. I would keep it.
Me, as an American League fan, wanted the National League to go to that rule so bad because I thought it was such an unfair advantage in the
Hmm.
playoffs,
Yeah.
in the World Series, when the American League pitchers were hitting. But now that it's gone, I want it back. I want it back because there's more strategy in the game, and you think even at like I get my put my manager's cap on and watch an old National League game. I was like, okay, my 8 batters coming up. We got one out. Okay, I got to get this run in. Is it fifth inning? Am I taking my pitcher out? You got to have, there's a lot of thinking coming to that when you got a pitcher hitting. And some teams even, remember, Paul, some teams even batted their pitcher eighth.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yep.
so they would not have to worry about that 9 hole. But
Yeah.
I like the old strategy in baseball. So now I'm going to disagree with you. I want to bring this
Okay.
rule back, along with many other rules. And maybe we'll do that in a future show. There's a lot of other rules in baseball that I
Hmm.
wish that I just want to throw in the shack. We'll do that in
Okay.
a future one of these. Rules. Should we keep them in the shack or bring them back? So,
Okay.
all right. But that one we're 50-50 on. Our next one, Paul, the old balloon chest protectors that the umpires used to wear,
Yeah.
right? Simple said, now most of the umpires today, and I used to umpire Little League, and I had that chest protector, and you wear it almost like you got a little strap that you put in front of you. But I'll go first on this one. I'm keeping that in the shack because if you could see the picture on this umpire here, you would have to be like this to cover your neck
Hmm.
unless you had that big chin strap, chin protector, because it was very dangerous if you didn't cover yourself completely. And then but now I would definitely toss that one in the lake, not even in the shack.
My
Use it as a
answer,
floating device. That's what I would use
right?
it.
That's funny. My answer is sort of split. If I'm an umpire, this to me is going to protect me more as long as I'm able to keep it up, above my neck. But from the standpoint of being comfortable, especially on a hot summer day in Kansas City or some other place where it's 100 degrees, I would think having the smaller chest protector is going to be much easier than having that big clunky padded chest protector.
Yeah, definitely. we're torn on this one too. So
Yeah.
uh, it's that one pitch you forget to cover yourself
Mm,
completely. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's more of a cushion as opposed to the ones you wear to underneath your shirt is more like a catcher's
right.
equipment. So it would just bounce off you. It was pretty wild scene. Got a couple more, Paul. Next
Okay.
one, the Twilight double headers. Remember those old double headers where you
Oh
go and you
yeah.
get two for the price of one, and you'd spend
Yeah.
all day at a ballpark
Yep.
on a weeknight. There it is, Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Washington versus Chicago doubleheader. Uh, I've actually been to a doubleheader a couple times. Got lucky back in, we had tickets, and we went for both games, and just a fun day. So I'll just go first on this one. Again,
Hmm.
I'll just say real quick, I'm bringing this back.
Yeah.
Baseball wants to, you know, be more recognized, bring back some of the old traditions, and players start playing double headers again.
I totally agree. Uh, Growing up, we used to always go to doubleheaders. I think I shared with you my very first game was a doubleheader, the Mets and the Giants, when I was 8 years old. Of course, the second game ended in 23 innings. Not that I was there, but always going to a Sunday afternoon doubleheader with my father, or when I got a little older with friends. It was great. Two for the price of one. You couldn't beat it. And then usually by the late in the second game, we were able to sneak downstairs and get down to the field level seats. So that was even a bigger bonus.
That's funny. 1 second. I got my next one for you. So we're unanimous on that one, by the way. We're bringing
Yes.
that one back.
Yep.
Here's one I had to bring up. The great Pete Rose, Paul, the player, not the manager.
Hmm.
Are we bringing him back into baseball and putting him in the Hall of Fame? We've had this discussion many
Yeah.
times,
Yep.
but the question is simple. Are we bringing him back, or does he stay in his shack, Paul, as the player? I don't want to know about the manager, as the player.
I'm always torn with Charlie Hustle because he knew what the circumstances were. If he bet on baseball, he signed off uh, with baseball to say that he did, and he knew he was going to be excluded. But that being said, nowadays with betting and gambling and being uh, wagering on baseball and all sports, it's almost inevitable that somewhere along the line, someone's going to say, well, we're going to have to bring him back. So let me just say, let's bring him back. Let's enter into the Hall of Fame and be over with it.
Exactly. I mean, uh, by the way, we're bringing two things back. If we bring Pete Rose back, he's got those red stirrups on in this picture.
I
I don't know if you
see.
can see it.
Yep.
He's got the old batting helmet too. Remember those old batting helmets?
Yeah.
Those
Oh
things
yeah.
without the ear protector.
Yeah, yeah.
Those things would fall off your head as soon as you'd swing. Those I'm keeping in the shack,
It's
by the way.
slide
That's not on
headfirst
the
into
list.
third base.
Yeah, yeah. Slide in there from you. I remember.
Right.
Anyway, back to Pete Rose. I bring him back because, you know, the player, he broke records. He didn't cheat with steroids or anything like that. You want to criticize the players that did the PEDs? Fine. He didn't do any of that as a player. What he did as a player was break records, Hall of Fame career, and you're keeping him out because of something he did as a manager. Okay. Shohei Ohtani, when all's said and done, if they find out something happened to him, you got to put an asterisk on his name too.
Mm.
And they're going to look the other way because he's the face of baseball. Not to get into Shohei Ohtani because this isn't about him tonight, but one, your interpreter's not in jail, but he stole $4.5 million from you. So
Hmm.
let's be realistic here. I mean, if we're gonna penalize one person for his life for life, you got to penalize the other ones. Or if you don't penalize the other ones, you got to let this guy back in. So this guy deserves to be back in as a player, and as a manager, no. As a manager, he stays out of baseball. But bring him back as a player if that makes sense. So that being said, I think we'd say we'd bring him back. A couple more. The San Diego Chicken. We all got those famous mascots. You got Mr. Met.
Hmm.
You got a dance team now, Paul. Mr. Met. The Phillies have the most famous one, the Philly Fanatic. Why don't we bring this character back, the San Diego Chicken? He's
Hmm.
been around for decades. I think the Padres actually brought him back for their 50th anniversary, but I don't think he's a mainstay. So should we bring the chicken back, Paul?
Yeah, what the hell? Bring him back. Absolutely. He was funny when the Padres would come into New York. They would always have the chicken versus Mr. Met. Hey, you know what? The mascots in college sports are really big. So why shouldn't they be big in the major leagues, regardless of what sport? So absolutely bring back the San Diego chicken.
Yeah, I'm bringing him back too. I like the Philly Fanatic, the chicken. I like that. It gets the kids involved too when they see the mascots
Hmm.
out there. You go to a minor league game and they get the kids involved all throughout the game. Major League Baseball needs to do that. Okay, it's not about the big time executives that only go to the World Series games. It's about the families, and families enjoy that type of stuff with their youngsters that can get laughter in between innings.
Hmm.
Uh, Bring it back. I mean, the Yankees never had a real a mascot, but they've had a real life guy who pretended to be like a mascot. His name was Freddie, and he would walk around the stadium. And I've done it a couple of times, and
I know
there's
who
this
you're
guy
talking
who lived
about too.
in New York City, lived in the Bronx.
Yep.
He passed away a few years ago, but
Yeah.
he had a pan and a spoon, and
Yeah.
he would have a little saying, Freddie says, go
Yeah.
Yankees today, beat the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And if you want the Yankees to beat the Red Sox, bang on the pan. So you get the
Yeah.
spoon and you go ding, 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 ding. Or
I
you would do like
remember him.
charge, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Oh
Freddie
man.
says, and Freddie, I remember seeing him at every Yankee game I went to till he
Yeah.
passed away. Rest in peace, Freddie.
Yep.
Freddie says he used to have a little cardboard thing on his pot or pan, whatever he
Yeah.
had, and you'd
I
bang on
remember him.
that. So yeah, the old good old fashioned mascots there. I think I got two more for you, Paul.
Bring him on. These are fun.
Bullpen carts or cars. The Yankees used to have a pinstripe car. They would take their pitchers around on the warning. They drive around on the warning track and bring them
Hmm.
around. But a lot of pitchers have pitching entrances now. So what
Yeah.
would you do? Would you bring back these cool looking bullpen cars, or do you let the pitchers run out and into their bullpen walk up songs?
Yeah, I mean, for the time at that time, those bullpen golf carts were amazing. They were great. I remember Tug McGraw bouncing out of the cart, and the crowd would cheer. But there's something about the magic of seeing Mariano Rivera coming out of the bullpen and Enter Sandman plays, or Diaz comes out and the trumpets start playing. So I'd say keep it in the shack.
Maybe the middle relief guys, I'll bring the bullpen cars out just to change it up a little bit. So,
Hmm.
but if you're bringing out a bullpen car 5, 6 times a game, no, but maybe once or twice. But the
Hmm.
closers, I love the closing songs as well. I'm with you, Paul. I'm semi closers are coming out to their entrance song. Middle relief guys, they can have that fancy looking bullpen car, so you can get that once a game. The fans can see a fancy looking bullpen car, whatever you want to call it. Couple
Hmm.
hellos. Kurt's saying a happy early birthday to me. Thank you, Kurt.
Hey, Kurt.
He's saying, what's up? Kurt, we'll see you tomorrow. By the way, K&K Sports Show will be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And because Wednesday I will be working. We're doing a little birthday show for yours truly here.
Hmm.
Speaking of tomorrow, our good friend Keith Brugman, Denver Bronco Roundup, 9 p.m. Eastern, right after our show. We could transfer you right over to Keith Brugman, Trevor Salzman, Albert Knoppers, doing Denver Bronco Roundup tomorrow evening, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, talking great Bronco stuff. And since it's a baseball show, I might as well tell the audience about Keith's new show. Keith is in charge of Rocky Mountain Sports Network, and a lot of you know Scoops from K&K Sports Show. They started a new Rockies podcast called Settle the Scores, and I believe, Keith, it's 10:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Mountain time. So if you can correct me if you can let me know if I'm correct on the time, if that's going to be a weekly thing at that time or if it's a different time. But yeah, Settle the Scores. Scoops Woodhams and Keith Brugman. Sometimes you'll see Trevor there as well. Kurt, Yankees finally have a true superstar in Soto. Can win it all with him. Soto's good, Kurt, and we better do all we can to keep him next year. And I mean, all we got to do, if that means trading Judge to the Mets, trade Judge to the Mets and keep Soto.
I don't want Judge. No.
He's saying the Yankees need one more legit contact hitter. Mets need an ace. Kurt,
Yeah.
glad you said that. I'll bring that up maybe in a future show, but I'll give you one that I think could happen. And Keith's listening. He's an Angel fan. If the Yankees want to go all in this year and the Angels want to rebuild, might be time to send Mr. Trout to New York. He grew up in New Jersey. Just saying. There's your contact hitter. Stanton will be on the DL by then anyway, so we can use a DH. So that'll be our guy. Yep, Keith saying you got it, birthday boy, 10:30 Eastern time. But yeah, and tomorrow 9 p.m. Eastern time for the Bronco show. We'll right after our show, we'll send everybody over to Denver Bronco Roundup. Sure, they'll be doing a lot of stuff. Keith saying, how about John Rocker running out of the bullpen? No carts.
my favorite relief pitcher.
And I got the
Of all
last one
time.
for you, Paul, and
I'm
everybody watching. I got one more, Paul, and then we'll get to what's on second.
Okay.
Kurt, guys, are we bringing back the kissing bandit Morgana?
Wait, is my wife watching?
I'll go first for those that wives may be watching.
All right.
I'm bringing her back. And this is why I'm bringing her back. I'm bringing her back.
Oh my God!
I'm bringing her back as a Yankee. Okay, I'm bringing back a kissing bandit as a Yankee mascot type of thing, and she runs out and distracts at some time one of the players or pitchers of the opposing team. And she's paid by the Yankees, not getting in trouble or arrested, but she's paid by the Yankees to go distract an opposing teammate opposing team star player or pitcher in a big spot. Because if that came running at me, guys, I'm sorry, that's going to distract me. So I'm doing that. If I'm the Yankees or any other team out there, would be smart to do something like that, guys. And married men now, I'd like your answer.
I'm going to plead the fifth. Whatever I say may tend to I may incriminate myself.
We're bringing,
But let me just,
for the single guys, we'll bring her back. Let's just
okay. All right.
But you've probably seen some of her antics, right? Like you've seen her come out. Like I
Oh,
saw
of
some
course.
Nolan Ryan got kissed by her, and
Yeah.
George Brett. So would she always go up to like the star players in different stadiums, or was it one stadium?
No, it was all over. And I'm sure Major League Baseball had something to do with it. They fly her around, and if it was on a national televised game, and all of a sudden, because think about it, they never put people coming out of the stands on TV. But how come she was put on the stands? I think I have a couple of reasons why.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like I'd bring back a kissing bandit for all the teams to distract the other teammate, the other team's star player, in a surprise moment of the game. Two outs in the ninth inning, bases loaded. Let's bring out our secret weapon, the kissing bandit.
That's hysterical.
When Shohei Ohtani's up in the World Series Game 7, let's bring the kissing bandit up. See if that can distract him, because nothing else can.
That's
but
funny.
There you go. There's
that was great.
Bring it back, keep it in the shack, Paul. I hope you enjoyed that.
That was wonderful. All right.
All right. We still got a few minutes left. Why don't we do what's on second? Because you got a good one for what's on second.
Yeah. So what's on second? Let's both name our top 5 biggest nemesis, either past nemesis or current nemesis. A guy that would come up either in a clutch situation, get a hit a home run, pitch an unbelievable game, and just destroy the Yankees or the Mets. And these guys, it doesn't have to be a superstar. It could be just a regular average player, but these are the guys that you feel the Yankees and the Mets could do without over the years. So do you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, let's go back and forth.
Okay.
Like Keith's saying, by the way, the kissing bandit seems like a Major League movie skit.
Let's start with 5 and work our way up to 1, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so who's your number 5?
Number 5 is a guy that pitched in the 90s against us, and we got the best of him, but he was a nemesis because I was afraid somebody was going to get hurt when he came in, and that was Armando Benitez when he pitched with Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
The big brawl that we had when he hit threw at Tino and hit him with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball in the back, in the upper back. So that would be my number 5. Keith's nemesis was Albert Pujols, and he played for us.
Yeah. My number 5 is an older player, great player though, Willie Stargell from the Pirates. Actually hit the first home run ever at Shea Stadium and wound up hitting 60 home runs against the Mets in his career. Pops, obviously beloved player with the Pirates, led them to the World Series in '79. We Are Family. But Willie Stargell would be my number 5 Mets nemesis. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 for me, guy played in the late 80s, early 90s. I could have went with 3 or 4 guys on this team, but I gone with the star of the team, and that's Ken Griffey Jr. In those playoff series, they had our number, those Mariner teams, and Don Mattingly couldn't get it against him. And I remember that game where Griffey scored that run, and it was just heartbreaking out there in the Kingdom at the time. But Griffey, great career. Ken Griffey Sr. was his dad, played with the Yankees, but Jr. was definitely a nemesis of ours
Hmm.
throughout his career with the Mariners. Then he went to the Reds. That was a blessing when he went to the Reds. So,
Yeah.
but while his time with the Mariners, even though it was a team that we only saw a couple times a year, we did see him in the playoffs quite often. So, big nemesis of ours at number 4, Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay. My four is sort of a combo. In the early 2000s, mid 2000, the Mets played the Phillies, obviously, and two guys on those teams, Pat Burrell and Shane Victorino. Uh, Pat Burrell would come up regardless of how many times the Mets would take a lead and somehow hit a home run, make a play in the field, but mostly get that clutch hit for the Phillies against the Mets. I mean, it was maddening. And the other half of that, Shane Victorino, was this sort of punch and Judy hitter, and it never seemed to fail. No matter how many times the Mets would stop him, he would come up in a clutch situation also and wind up getting a hit or making a catch in the outfield and center field. And he was just so annoying and was a big pest. So those are my combo two at number 4.
Number 3.
Okay.
Number 3 from me. Jody's not listening, but it's definitely a nemesis, and that's Jose Altuve.
Mm.
You know, Bang the Drum Lightly was the Yankee movie. Well, they were banging their drums heavy, those
Mm.
trash drums. And, you know, he'll always be a nemesis for that series alone. But, you know, every time he's up, I just, you know, you want, like, get him out. And it could be a game, meaningless game tomorrow, and we could be winning 10-0, and I still want Altuve to strike out. So that's that to me, that spells nemesis, that spells rival, that spells all of the above. So I got to throw Jose Altuve in there as number 3. Ichiro has to be a nemesis for him as an Angel fan.
Oh,
Played
sure.
small ball like Tony Gwynn, always getting
Mm-hmm.
on base. That's a good one,
Yeah.
Keith.
Oh, yeah. Very much. My number 3 is also a second baseman, Chase Utley, who probably has hit more home runs at Citi Field than any other player since Citi Field opened. Again, more clutch home runs, hits by this guy against the Mets in the mid to late 2000s. And I think it culminated in the 2015 playoffs when the Mets played the Dodgers in the division round. And he was now a member of the Dodgers off the bench, and he slid late into second and broke the shortstop, our shortstop Ruben Tejada's leg in a slide that was, well, many Mets and Mets fans thought was dirty. So not only as a Philadelphia Philly, but also then as a Dodger, uh, number 3 is Chase Utley.
Number 2 for me is, and people are starting to wonder. By the way, good friend Michael Ronquillo saying good evening, Kenny and Paul. What's up, Michael?
Hey, Michael.
Out in Arizona. Hope you're doing well out there. Hope you enjoy the game tonight, even though it's not your Arizona Wildcats. I know should be a good game, and men's final out there in Arizona. Sorry, your Arizona Wildcats didn't make it. I know people out there saying, well, how come there's no Red Sox on this list for Kenny? He's a Yankee fan. Well, here they come, guys. Number 2 on my list, Pedro Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Funny that some of these guys went on to be Mets, right? So it's obvious that
Yeah.
everybody on the Mets is our nemesis. So so they went over, and 2 of these guys on this list, Benitez and Martinez, double nemesis. But Pedro was just, you know, played for our hated rival and got the best of us quite often. We got to him a couple times, but then when we got to him, he pulled the antics, you know. Yeah, you know, that one where he was doing this, and Don Zimmer took offense to it, and he threw Don Zimmer to the ground. Shame on you, and always be a nemesis of mine. And, you know, what gets me, Paul, is We talk about these things earlier about Pete Rose and stuff like that. But how about these off the field antics for Pedro Martinez? But Major League Baseball Network and these other networks will have him
Hmm.
talking about the games like nothing has ever happened. So
Oh yeah.
he's a great announcer and analyst. So no, if you're going to keep him out of baseball, keep certain people out of baseball for gambling and doing other things, and you should keep the players that are doing these things off the game as well. A couple comments. Keats' number one nemesis is Artie Moreno. Sell the team, Artie.
That's funny. Pedro, I think, pitched the greatest game I ever went to. I went to a Yankee Red Sox game, and he pitched the Red Sox won 2-1. He pitched a one hitter. The only hit he gave up was to Chili Davis, who hit a home run, and he struck out 17 Yankees. I mean, total domination. Unbelievable game. My number two, there have been many pitchers in the National League that have dominated the Mets. Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, Oral Hershiser, among many Dodger pitchers. But my number one pitcher is Clayton Kershaw. The Mets have never beaten him. He's 11-0 in the regular season with I think an ERA of close to 1, almost unhittable against the Mets. The ironic thing is, when they played in the 2015 division round against the Dodgers, the Mets beat him, lending Kershaw's continued inability to win in the postseason. But he's my number two on my list. Okay. And I can't wait for your number one pick.
It's another Red Sox. But this guy killed us over and over and over and over, and I can go over and over and over for an hour. Big Papi David Ortiz. There was a spot where I could just, feel comfortable when this guy was up and be like, okay, we're going to get him out. But every single time this guy was up at Yankee Stadium, he'd come up with a big hit or home run and just destroy us, whether if it was a regular season game, a playoff game, you name it, this guy did it against us. And simple, by far biggest nemesis of mine since I've been alive watching the Yankees. Big Papi, David Ortiz.
Yep, very good. And not for the Yankees, but I understand perfectly. So similarly, my biggest nemesis, of course, is also another rival to the Mets, Chipper Jones, who is probably the most dominant hitter overall. Home runs, batting average, extra base hits against the Mets in the Mets history. Talk about clutch hits, clutch home runs. The guy did it all. It got to the point where he loved hitting at Shea Stadium when the Mets was still at Shea Stadium. He wound up naming his daughter Shea. That's how much he loved being at Shea Stadium, that he named his actual daughter Shea. The Met fans, of course, to get back at him when the Braves would come in, they would do a chant of his first name was Lawrence. They shortened it to Larry, and there would be a sing song. Met fans, Larry, Larry, and he would hear that every time he came up. I guess it was sort of respectful to show the respect that we had for him. But without a doubt, my number one nemesis, being from the Braves, and he was just a ridiculously good hitter against the Mets.
Gotcha. We got a hello from WestJess30 on YouTube saying, "Go Mets."
All
Thanks,
right. Thanks, Wes.
Jess, for hanging out with us tonight.
Let's go Mets.
Paul, real quick, what I want to do is I want to do a quick recap of our show through our pictures real quick. I think that's something that, can start doing. People are just tuning in late. And then I guess they've got to get the closing thoughts in. It's already after that hour mark, but
this hour flies by so fast.
What's wrong with the Mets? What's wrong with the Yankees? Not necessarily Francisco Lindor, but what's wrong with the Mets is the fans and media bashing Lindor and his family, et cetera, et cetera. What's wrong with the Yankees is the same. Some fans and media getting down on Nestor Cortez and Giancarlo Stanton. Some fans are thinking he's going to have 50 home run season after a 2 home run uh, uh, outburst this past weekend. Doc Gooden retires. Not retires. Doc's Gooden numbers getting retired. Paul mentioned earlier his illustrious career at the Mets. He had Yankees as well. Get to that comment in a minute from a Jim Lanoy. We had a Mount Rushmore of starting pitchers. It was the Yankees and the Mets starting pitchers was there. We have a Who's on First segment. Our big question was bring it back, keep it in the shack. Where the Expos were coming back, halfway coming back. Stirrups are coming back. National League rules are slightly coming back. Chest protectors keeping them in the shack. Doubleheaders are coming back. Pete Rose is coming back as a player, not a manager. The chicken we're bringing back. Bring back the fun mascots. The bullpen carts, they're pretty much staying in the shack. Maybe middle relievers can come out on those carts. And the kissing bandit definitely coming back to distract the opposing team's star players for sure. Little recap. Got a comment from Jim Lanoy saying Yankees need a true closer as well, and Volpe needs to move up in the order. I like moving up Volpe, especially with DJ out, Jim. And as for a closer, I think that's something the Yankees should address near the deadline, because I think we will be in the hunt. And if Cole is going to be hurt for a long period of time, can't count on starting pitching to be strong throughout the year. So you're going to need a bullpen, Jim. I couldn't agree more. Let's go out and get a closer in a couple months when the deadline. Go get a closer from a team selling for sure. Paul, I know we cut this off again, but next show we'll do it at the beginning of the show. I promise. We got that little singing segment.
Oh, okay.
It's already almost 10 after 9.
Yeah.
The time flies by, but we'll do it at the beginning of the show in our intro.
Okay.
Fun little segment you got. So why don't we get our closing thoughts
Sounds
in
good.
And get ready for some March Madness NCAA championship featuring Purdue and UConn.
Yep. Great show, Kenny. I tell you, the hour just flies by. It's amazing how fast it goes, and great responses from our audience. Always a pleasure to interact with them. And of course, with you, thank you for your great hosting tonight, as usual. And listen, beginning of the baseball season. Let's see how it plays so far going into the first month of the season.
Absolutely, and thank you to you, Paul, putting up great segments with me every week, and it's always a blast doing this show with you. And the hour does fly by. Big shout out to our audience members. Most recent, Jim Lanoy and WestJess 30.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us. Good friend Michael Ronquillo. Of course, Keith and Albert, Denver Bronco Roundup, Rocky Mountain Sports Network, Settle the Scoops. Of course, Kurt Valenti, and I know I missed a couple others.
Eddie
Murphy as well, and Graham at the beginning of the show as well. So thank you guys so much for being part of the show. It's what makes us want to do this more and more each week with all of you. Next week, we'll be back to New York Giants football talk, and in the upcoming weeks leading up to the draft. So we're going to take a couple weeks off from the baseball show, but after the draft, we'll be back with some more New York for you all in our unique, fun style New York Yankees, New York Mets show. And last comment coming from Michael Ronquillo: the Yanks not having Garrett Cole might sting the Yanks down the road. It's going to hurt, Michael. It's going to hurt. That being said, tomorrow, once again, K&K Sports Show tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be talking March Madness, NBA basketball, March Madness, bunch of other sports. Anything you guys want to throw at us, we'll discuss it. You want to talk darts? We'll talk darts. Billiards? We'll talk billiards. But all joking aside, you all have a great night, and we will see everybody tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a good night, everybody.